Girl, do not skip the midterms. This is why 2026 could decide everything. Welcome back to Stay at Home Feminist. Your soft girl era starts here, along with the fall of the patriarchy. Let's see it crumble. Babes, today we're talking about something that isn't super sexy, but it might just decide your future and if we'll still have a country that even vaguely resembles democracy in a few years' time. Yes, today we are diving into the 2026 midterms. It might feel a little bit far away, but it's not. They are around the corner. And I get how midterms might feel a little bit abstract, but they are make or break. And they are what is going to make 2026 the year we clip Trump's wings, or the year we don't, or the year we let that man soar. So what do you want it to be? Yeah, I thought so. All right. So yeah. Midterms aren't as juicy as the normal presidential elections. But here's the thing. History tells us the midterms are where the real damage or the real defense can happen. So I went on to the US Vote Foundation's website to really sink my teeth into what are the things we should be looking for to upcoming midterm. So if you want to go through anything I'm talking about, I recommend that website. But yeah, let's get into it. So basically, midterms are elections that happen halfway through a presidential term. In 2026, in just a few months' time, all 435 House seats and 33 Senate seats will be up for grabs. Every single state is going to hold an election. So this isn't a side quest. All right, babes, let's lock in. This is the main event, which is going to decide whether Trump gets to fly free and do whatever he wants, or if we're going to clip his wings. The Brookings Institution just dropped an analysis of what we can expect in 2026. So I want to dive into what they say so we can sort of, do a little temp check. But no matter what I say here, it is so important that we do not rest on our laurels or just think it doesn't matter or someone else is going to do the work or vote. If you've ever wanted to be politically involved, now is the time. I have done multiple years of phone banking and canvassing and volunteer work for special elections, regular elections, presidential elections, midterm elections. Trust me, that work matters. You could phone bank 4 hours a week if that's all you have. Whatever it is, share information with your friends and family. Find out who is running in your district. Can you chip in $5? There's so many different ways to get involved, and you can start now. It's never too early or too late to get involved. And there is a lot riding on 2026. So buckle up, babes, because the stakes are high. The trends are a little terrifying. The opportunities we have are very, very real. So let's not let this opportunity pass us by. To understand where we are going, we need to understand where we've been. So we're going to get into a little history moment here. Here's a quick little history lesson so you have some context for midterms. Okay, the first most important thing you need to know is that the president's party almost always loses House seats, basically 100% of the time. So the president's party is Republican, and right now they have the House. So if we could sway that, that would be huge for us. And it's not this crazy task, we got to put in the work and we got to make sure we get there and not rest on our laurels, as I just said. But guys, light is at the end of the tunnel a little bit here. Yes, I think the most exciting about the 2026 midterm elections is what has happened in past elections. Since 1938, the president's party has lost seats in 20 out of 22 midterm elections. Essentially, unless there's a national crisis that rallies everyone, like how 9/11 impacted the 2002 midterms almost always punish the party in the White House. Again, in 20 out of 22 of the last midterms, that has happened. And one of the times, as I just referred to, was when after 9/11, which I think we'll get maybe into this a little bit more later, but look at how the Trump administration keeps trying to like instigate problems. Like ding, 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 that's about like they know that the midterms aren't going to go in their favor. That's why they're trying to gerrymander votes and say we're at war with Venezuela when we're not. And like, I mean, there's other reasons they're doing that too, but they're also like trying to call in the National Guard and do all this stuff because they want it to be like such a crisis, because those crises, or at least that crisis once, helped an incumbent party keep hold in the midterms. And that's like what the stoke they want to fear. So just expect that everything is, the crazy is going to ramp up between now and the midterms. Don't let that deter you. It's all smoke and mirrors. We're cool, guys. We're cool. Just keep it pushing. Just keep it pushing. All right. In 20 out of the last 22 midterms since 1938, the party in the White House doesn't do well. Okay. Another very important thing to know about the midterms is that presidential approval rates are like a destiny map for the future. Okay. And that is really exciting right now because Trump's approval ratings are catastrophic, as is most of the Republican party right now. Like Republicans are not doing well with approval ratings, despite what they're trying to make it seem like. Americans don't want a lot of the really, really harmful things that are being pushed. I mean, look at even people who are very like pro-life or very conservative don't want near total abortion bans. Like they understand that, you know, even if they don't agree with abortion, most people agree that like special instances that should be legal. That's just one example. So like people aren't a fan of how repressive and restrictive and extremely conservative this party is. Even conservatives feel that way. Obviously, my liberal ass feels that way, but like, yeah. So they're not popular amongst Republicans or Democrats, all that to say, which is great news because, as I said, president's approval ratings really, really can help indicate what the midterms are going to be like. Because think about it. If the approval ratings are low, people are not happy with the party that's in the White House. They're not going to want to vote for that party because they don't have that confidence. Again, this does not mean we rest on those laurels. This is not your sign to slow down. There's too much at stake. This is your motivation to keep going and to make sure we win by a landslide. So those losers in the White House know that they are losers. We are not fans of them. We do not like them. We do not like what they stand for. We are not going to let them push these authoritarian fascist agendas any longer. But anyways, low approval ratings almost always mean big midterm losses, which is great for us because Trump's approval rating is dismal. Midterm results track closely with whether people like the president. That's how it's kind of always been. Again, midterms are sort of like a progress report or a report card for how the party in the White House is doing. When approval ratings are low, voters are more motivated to punish the president's party by flipping seats. Or maybe not even punish, but like be like, all right, this isn't working. Let's try something else. It's like a little bit giving Yelp reviews for democracy. That's probably a horrible comparison. But, you know, if you're not doing well, they're not going to want more of it. And guess what? Their approval ratings are not doing well right now. So that is huge for us. I think another very important thing to think about with the MAGA base and Trump being elected is that in a lot of states, I think this was true for Pennsylvania, Arizona, I want to say Wisconsin, like down ballot was blue. Like Democrats won down ballot, like abortions were voted into the Constitution and things like that happened down ballot in a lot of states. But the top of the ticket, Trump won. So most states that in this past election that were voting for most Democrats down ballot did everything Dem, voted everyone Democratic in, except for the only Republicans they voted in were Trump. And that's really, really important when we think about the midterm elections, because it's common that a president can sweep in on a big win, but midterms cut those coattails right off. You can't coast on that anymore. And that's especially true with something like the MAGA base, who is so enamored with Trump and Trump specifically, and that doesn't necessarily always translate to other politicians. Yes, a lot of politicians have learned how to sweet talk the MAGA base and get Trump to endorse them, which goes a long way in the MAGA base, but it's not the same as Trump himself. He is their charismatic leader. He is their, you know, bread and butter. Looks a little bit like bread and butter too. No, I shouldn't say that. That's insulting to bread and butter. Without the top of the ticket, enthusiasm dips. And that could mean that some seats vanish from the Republican Party. A big presidential win doesn't carry over into the midterms, and Trump has never won by big margins. He lost the popular vote both times. Like, he is not very popular. It's our rigged electoral college system that's getting him in. But even if he was popular, even if we were talking about a very popular president, even if supporters turn out in droves during the presidential election, that doesn't necessarily translate in the midterms. So yeah, that's some more good news for us. Again, this is not your sign to slow down and rest. I mean, rest, you know how I feel about soft girl era. Get into that soft girl era, girl, rest. This is a marathon, not a sprint. But what I'm trying to say, this isn't your sign to be like, oh, cool, I don't have to worry about it. This is your sign to be like, there's a lot of hope. I think right now, one of the tactics coming out of the White House is to be like, hey, this is happening, whether you like it or not. They seem like the kind of guys who like to say that, huh? This is happening whether you like it or not. So like, might as well just give up. No need to fight back. Wow, I'm like not even trying to make this such a metaphor, but like, if the shoe fits, honey. If the shoe fits, honey, lace that bitch up. Anyways, you're gonna hear a lot of craziness that's gonna make it feel like, why even try? Or I'm so exhausted, I can't even pay attention. Or like, things are getting more expensive. The economy is getting worse. Like things are getting more dire. It's going to be harder to just stay locked in and focus. And you don't have to pay attention to everything. You don't have to care about, there's so many crises to care about. The climate crisis, the this, the that. I get it. It's exhausting. If you're going to care about one thing in the next year, please let it be the midterms. Please. If you don't have capacity for anything else, just voting in the midterms. You don't even have to be like the most well-versed person in the midterms. Like get people you know and love to vote in the midterms. Like people forget. It's confusing. It's every couple of years, but it's not the same as the presidential election. Like people really fall out. Even me, who's been very politically involved, like I missed a midterm like when I was younger because I was just like, wait, what? Like, huh? You know, it's like it took me a while of being a voter to like understand, you know, the first midterms that I could vote in, I like didn't even know that was a thing. The same with the second one, you know, it wasn't for a while until I was like in my late 20s that I was like, wait, midterms who? You know? So it just, people don't always know about it. And I think this is also why I wanted to do this topic, like so far ahead of the midterms, because I'm like, get your head of the game, girls, non-gendered girls. But also that it's like, I think when midterm season does come and everyone's like, midterm this, midterm that. It's like, if you don't even know what a fucking midterm is, you're like, oh, I don't even really want to learn. I'm so far behind, why even try? So like, you know, midterms are not this big, scary thing you have to know everything about. Just vote, please, please. The size of your majority matters. And Republicans do hold a majority, but Republicans right now have a razor thin margin. They only have 219 House seats. Democrats have 214 House seats and 2 seats are vacant, just 2 above the majority. Historically, if a party wins a huge majority in the presidential election, they tend to lose more seats in the midterms because they have more seats that are vulnerable. But even slim margins, like what we're seeing today, are risky because a few flipped seats could completely change the name of the game. If we flip a couple of seats, Republicans will no longer control the House. Right now, Republicans are clinging to 219 seats. You need 218 for a majority. So like, margins are razor thin. They're skating on thin ice, baby. So in the midterms, we don't need a blue wave. We don't need this huge outpour. We just need a little ripple, okay? We just need a little driblet to get some of those seats. Again, this does not mean you don't need to go vote. This does mean don't be discouraged. And even though we don't need a blue wave, how nice, how sweet would it be if we had one? Just to stunt on them hoes. So let's peek into a crystal ball and see what 2026 looks like, knowing some of that sort of historical context of what past midterms elections have looked like. As I said, Republicans have razor thin margins of control right now, and they have horrible approval ratings pretty much across the board. It's catastrophic for them. So like the time is now. The time is now to vote those people out of office. With just 219 seats in the House, Republicans are clinging to this like your ex is clinging to your Instagram password. Just need a few seats to flippity flop. We can do this, guys. It only takes 219 seats to control the chamber, And Democrats currently have 214 seats. So we got to hang on to what we have and we got to get a few more. Just a few seats stand between Republicans keeping or losing the majority on the House. And considering that Republicans have showed time and time again that they will not stray from what Trump wants, they will not put him in check at all. Like, we need those seats, fam. To put it into perspective, a handful of districts flipping could literally change the balance of power in Congress and finally put some guardrails up between what Trump wants to do and what he can actually do. The Senate map is a little more tricky. Republicans are defending 53 seats in the Senate and Democrats have 45. So they have a little bit more of a margin there. But historically, when one party leads by a lot, they lose by a lot in the midterms because they have more seats to defend. And as we know, low approval ratings means lots of districts turning to the other party. And the approval ratings are low right now. But still, it is gonna be a tough fight, especially because some of these seats are in deep red states and some are in battlegrounds. So this is gonna be a street fight, guys. A lot of the seats that are up for grabs in the midterms for the Senate, when looking at the GOP, are in very deep red, very MAGA states, where flipping is tough no matter what the dismal approval ratings about our president are saying. So remember when I said we gotta lock in? Like, this is very much a good time to be locking in. And in battleground states, or swing states, both parties are going to be pouring an obscene amount of money and resources to get attention. So those are going to be tough to flip for the Senate too, which is why I'm like, some of the paths to, the House may seem a little easier, but the Senate is hard and we really, really need to lock in to get as many seats flipped as possible to try to get that majority. Because at this moment in time, as I said, this could change everything. It's the difference between people standing in Trump's way, standing up to Trump, or people just letting him do whatever he wants. Even so, there are dozens of vulnerable districts in this upcoming midterm election. The Brookings Institute says that plenty of Republican seats were won by less than 5 points in 2024. That's sneeze and you miss it territory. Okay, we love to see that. With better organization and turnout, Democrats can realistically flip these seats. Trump's approval is in the negative, and approval really matters in the midterms. And right now, he's underwater. Unless the narrative shifts, we can really expect to see a lot of seats flipped in the midterms. And that's something to be very excited about. That's some hope to hold on to. But with that being said, if we know this information about midterms, you know that Trump's staff sure as hell does. So they are going to be working overtime to make us feel like he is the best, safest option. And if he's not a popular president and the things he's doing isn't popular, the thing that's going to make him seem safe is chaos and madness and instability. People will look to him for stability. So just be aware. Be aware of the tactics, gang, because we've seen time and time again that approval ratings can swing drastically depending on the economy, foreign crises, or culture war stunts. And we know how much this party loves culture war stunts. When I voted in the last election, there was like multiple people with MAGA gear on outside of the place where I went to vote. And they were like, hey, do you want our ballot suggestion? Basically take this in with you to vote. And this is what MAGA thinks you should vote for. And I had never seen anything like that in any of the places that I had gone to vote before. So I was very shocked by that. And then when Trump won, I was sort of like, damn, no wonder if those guys were out at every other election place where what are they called? Where you cast your ballot. Yeah, they were getting a lot of people who maybe hadn't thought much about it. And they were like, here's how to vote. And they have all the MAGA gear on. And so they're very organized. Say what you will about MAGA. MAGA is very organized. And they really, really speak to people's very primal emotions in a way that Democrats have struggled to click with people in that meaningful way. Although educated voters tend to lean Dem and therefore sort of vote reliably in the midterm because they're more keeping their finger on the pulse. MAGA is very, very organized. And every time people are like, Donald Trump can't win, he wins. So I think a lot of people are going to look at the midterms and be like, well, Dems typically vote more in the midterms. Republicans rely on irregular Trump voters. We can't count on that. Trump is going to tell his base to vote, you guys. because he wants to keep the House and the Senate. So they're going to be there. They're going to be voting. So we need to be there and we need to be voting. If Democrats can maintain their typical voter turnout, if anything, increase it, we can neutralize Republican enthusiasm gaps. If Democrats win just like 2 or 3 more points nationally, that's enough to flip 10 to 20 seats. That's control, baby. That's power back in our hands. In the House, the total national vote closely translates into how many seats each party wins, which means even a 2 to 3% shift in the overall vote can flip 10 to 20 seats. In an environment where Republicans only have like a seat of cushion, that's enough to completely change control of Congress. All 435 House seats and a third of the Senate are up for a vote in the midterms. So yeah, 2026 is big. The question is, are we going to show up like it is as big as it is? I hope so. I hope so. So why does this matter? Well, mainly because the midterms decide whether Trump gets free reign or has to fight for every inch that he's trying to push. When Republicans have the House, Trump can push his agenda. If they lose the House, there can be gridlocks and pushback that stall him or deter him or totally stop him. If Republicans keep the House in the midterms, Trump has a green light to pass whatever he wants, from harsher immigration crackdowns to rolling back reproductive rights, climate protections, and civil liberties. The House controls like the floor agenda. So basically bills that Democrats would never even let see the light of day. Losing the House means Democrats cannot block the kind of harmful legislation we've seen happen going forward. That's the difference between 2 years of Trump doing whatever he wants or 4 years of it. But most importantly, if Democrats win the House in the midterms, we get oversight. Control means subpoena power, hearings, investigations, accountability. Whoever controls the House controls the committees. If Democrats take over the House, they can investigate corruption, hold hearings, and keep the executive branch in check. If Republicans stay in power, they'll continue to run interference for Trump and focus instead on punishing political opponents, which is what they've been doing since January, basically. Another reason it's super important Democrats take over the House in the midterm elections is because of budget control. No House, no money for his authoritarian pet projects. Congress writes the checks. Without the House, Trump doesn't get money for just whatever he wants. For mass deportations, for alligator Alcatraz. But if they keep the House, he keeps his purse strings and can continue to fund whatever he wants. We don't want his budget to keep passing for him as he's stripping away our healthcare and social services to line the pockets of his billionaire cronies. It's also important because the midterms are always very indicative. I think there's a little bit more on the line this year, but midterms are historically always looked at as sort of the opening act for the next upcoming presidential election. If Democrats do well in 2026, they head into 2028 with strong momentum, with good infrastructure, with energized voters. If they flop, the narrative becomes Democrats are weak, which is like they're doing a really good job of letting that always be the narrative. And climbing back from that in 2 years is going to be really hard to do. But I mean, focusing back in on the now, every unchallenged power grab sets a precedent. If Trump sails through 2026, that becomes the new baseline. That becomes the new normal. If we have Republicans continuing to back him and controlling the House and the Senate, his authoritarian moves like gutting civil service, mass firings, hijacking local policing, they stop being shocking and they start being standard practice. Once that baseline shifts, it will get harder and harder to pull this government back to anything resembling a democracy. Trump and GOP control has been really devastating and shocking for so many Americans just in the past 6 months or so that they've been controlling things. They've been in office. Here are some of the most alarming things that Republicans have done in 2025 and why we need to vote them out in the midterms. First, we've seen sweeping executive restructuring in the first 100 days of Trump being president. Trump has already pushed to rewrite institutional norms, things like that, checks and balances that make the democracy. He's moved excessively hard on immigration and restructuring government agencies and totally dismantling some. I mean, hello, USAID no longer exists. He's accelerating deportations, undoing very important regulations that protect us, like environment, health, safety, weather. So many. I don't even know where to start. He's been reorganizing internal government functions to better suit him and his needs, and essentially using that to reduce checks and balances. These early actions matter, not just as policy, but as a signal. Because when the layout starts to change, our point for what's normal shifts more and more, and his authoritarian agenda becomes easier and easier. We've seen massive regulatory rollbacks that are going to be devastating for the average American. And you might not feel it now, but you will. You will eventually. We've seen the Trump administration time and time again delaying, repealing, or rewriting regulations across environment, health, labor, and other sectors. They're taking away the rules that protect clean water, workers' rights, health standards, pollution oversight. All of those things that protect the average American are being gutted or made weaker. Each regulatory change is like chipping away at the scaffolding that holds the state, that holds the country accountable to best serve Americans. If you remove oversight, the power trends towards the executive, and the executive branch, i.e. the president, can just do whatever the F they want. We've also seen the public media stays under attack with this administration. Executive Order 14290 was when Trump ordered the termination of federal funding for NPR and PBS. And he did this because he was accusing them of being biased. This is public media that began to ensure that people could get programming and information, like Sesame Street. Sesame Street was too biased for our president. And they frame it as budget politics, but it's way more than that. It's pushing public media towards dependency or collapse, which weakens independent and critical journalism, along with things that are like public and good. Like we all saw that viral clip of like the Trump admin's like new PBS, new Sesame Street, where it was like Christopher Columbus being like, guys, slavery was not even that big of a deal. Basically, everyone has been a part of slavery. Stop making it so weird. And don't you think the slaves were better off? Then actually, we could have killed them, but we let them be slaves. That was great. Like that was a cartoon for kids saying shit like that. Come on. Another very, very scary thing that we're seeing Trump do is the way he's politicizing law enforcement. We see it with the federal takeover of DC. He declared a crime emergency in DC, which moved control of the Metropolitan Police from local to federal, basically allowing the deployment of federal agents and the DC National Guard. Despite statistics showing that crime rates were the lowest they had been in decades in DC. And he tried to do the whole National Guard thing in California. We see him threatening Chicago. I'm pretty sure he's trying to be in the Pacific Northwest now. It's just this isn't about policing. It's about asserting that the president can override local authority and take direct control of enforcement when he pleases. And that is 110% not okay in a democracy, especially in the way that our democracy is supposed to function. There's so many more things we can do, from all of the firings that they've done to the way he's just destroying our economy. I bring this up to remind you that these moves aren't abstract. They are what power looks like unchecked. And if we don't rip up his blueprint right now, we're going to wake up one day in a house that has already been redesigned for authoritarian rule. So when we go fight and we go to the 2026 midterms, we're not just fighting for seats. We're fighting to reclaim a democracy that is being torn away from us. So depending on how you look at it, kind of looks like maybe Democrats have it in the bag for the 2026 midterms, but also sort of not. And I think it's really important to think about the wild cards that can happen between now and then, because I really feel like, considering how low Trump's approval ratings are, they are going to be throwing those wild cards at us to, again, make things feel unstable. So people look to the leader of our country for stability, even though he's the one making things unstable. Anything can happen happen between now and November 2026? And girl, you know I mean anything. Trump's approval rating could rise. The economy could improve, which would score some really good political points. And, you know, that probably won't happen. But what is more likely to happen is the way that crises shift narratives. We've seen it with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and we've seen it historically with wars or disasters or policy backlash. I hope what happens is that all of this government overreach backfires, but unfortunately, it seems to somehow be energizing this base, which is confusing to me because aren't they like the team small government peeps, but whatever. All that to say is surprises are guaranteed. Remember when Roe was overturned in 2022? The public did not see that curveball coming. I mean, pro-abortion activists, that writing was on the wall, babe, but it was still a shock, you know, when that Supreme Court ruling got leaked and we were like, oh, damn, that's what's happening. And then they overruled it. And even though the Supreme Court ruling got leaked, when they actually did it, it was so shocking. All that to say is stay woke, fam. We don't need to wait until the fall of 2026 to start paying attention to the primaries. We can start caring from now. We can start getting involved with community organization, activism, and learning about what's happening at a local level around us from now. The game starts early. When it's this important, guys, it's time to prep for the game a little bit earlier. Okay, so what are some tangible things that you can start caring about from now to make sure you are prepped and ready to go for the midterms? One, voter registration. Are you registered to vote? Let's be registered. You might have to re-register. We've seen a lot of fuckery about with different gerrymandering shit. So depending on where you live, like just, you know what's going on. Things might have changed since the last time you voted, is what I'm trying to say. Every state has different rules, deadlines, ID requirements. So make sure you have that in the bag because missing that hurdle can shut people out of the process entirely, which is some of it seems a little intentional, but look up your state's election calendar, register online, or request an absentee ballot if you're not going to be in the area. The earlier you check this stuff out, the fewer surprises you'll face when it's crunch time. Another thing you can do is re-engage lapsed voters. Millions of people voted in 2020, but sat out in 2022 or 2024. And that's where elections are won or lost. These folks often feel discouraged, burned out, or like their vote doesn't even matter. You know, some things I heard the last election are like, why choose the lesser of two evils? They're both evil. Or it doesn't matter who I vote for. Everyone's corrupt. Like so many people have felt so discouraged. And while I get that, you know, we got to try our best, guys. Our democracy is not perfect, but not voting is not the answer, please. So if you know someone like that, a text or a conversation or even just a reminder could go a long way. Again, like, let's centralize what we're trying to say, which is that I know it might feel like it doesn't matter and being discouraged right now is very valid, but small margins can flip a district and that could be enough to change everything. So like your voice and your vote really do matter. Talk to your friends and family about it. And if you feel so inclined, like phone bang, talk to strangers about it too. In all elections, but especially with midterms, it's very, very important to know about the local powers that be, you know, school boards, city council, county commissioners. Yeah, that sounds boring. I get it. But they decide how federal policies actually manifest in your local community. They oversee book bans, reproductive health access, and even local policing, and make sure in the midterms to hold incumbents accountable. Every politician loves to say they support democracy, but what they're voting on, what they're supporting tells the real story. Did they vote to restrict voting rights, to gut reproductive health access, or to block climate action? Track their records and call them out publicly. I think in this midterms in specific, controlling the narrative or at least understanding the different narratives is more important than ever. The right is expert at framing issues in manipulative ways, saying family values, but they're really trying to control women's bodies, saying election integrity when they really mean voter suppression. If we don't challenge their language, it becomes truth by repetition. Learn to decode their spin and reframe it into what is actually true and real. If you're going to take away one thing from this episode, I hope it is the importance of coalition building. This is for like my activists. If you're not quite ready for some like activist energy right now, that's okay. Just vote and we'll be cool. But if you want to get involved, coalition building is so important right now. Reproductive justice, racial justice, climate justice, labor rights. They're not separate fights. They're different heads of the same snake of oppression. The more we show up for each other, the stronger we all become, and the harder it is for authoritarians to divide us. We don't want them dividing and conquering. We need to band together as a collective and build coalitions from different sectors and focus on coalition building. One thing that is also very, very important for the midterm elections is to protect election infrastructure. Election workers and poll volunteers are frequently being harassed or even threatened. And some states are even trying to hand election oversight to partisan actors. Protecting election workers and processes is protecting democracy. And last but not least, as I love to say, pace yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Share the load, join teams, take breaks, because we don't need martyrs. We need a sustainable resistance to what is happening around us. This isn't about being the perfect activist. It's about being the persistent one. Every small act, checking your registration, sharing a link, having that conversation with a friend or family member, it stacks up. And when we stack together, that's how we flip the seats. And that's how we flip the script. And it's time to flip the script. Being a feminist means fighting for rights that should be basic. It means knowing the system wasn't designed for us, but refusing to accept it. And you know what? Women, especially women of color, especially Black women, have carried democracy on their backs, have carried rights for the rest of us, protections for the rest of us, time and time again. And from suffrage to civil rights to Roe, women are such an important voting bloc. And 2026 is our next test. And white women, we see you not voting or voting against your best interests. So please understand the impact this is going to have on you and kids. DEI is a perfect example. White women benefit the most from DEI initiatives, yet white women are the reason, essentially, they're being stripped away because so many white women are voting for these conservatives that are saying these things are horrible. So please understand what it is that you're supporting. Okay. And don't let them scare you about transgender athletes because that make up 0.0003% of the population. It's not something you're ever really going to have to worry about. But you know what you're going to have to worry about is gun violence and healthcare and the economy and so many other real things. So yeah, calling all my girls, we know how to organize, we know how to resist, and we know how to turn rage into progress. So let's go. Let's keep that momentum, baby. So here's a little bit of homework. Go to usvotefoundation.org and look up your state's election calendar, find your deadlines, set reminders, and text 3 friends asking if they've registered to vote. Pick one race and commit to learning about it because the 2026 midterms are not a side quest. They are the main event, baby. If we show up, if we flip seats, we stall authoritarianism. We buy our frail democracy some time. And I don't even want to think about what happens if we don't. So we got this, guys. I know the midterms feel far away, but they sneak up on us. So thanks for listening to this episode. Thanks for caring. I hope you learned something. Comment and let me know what you learned about the midterm elections, or let me know what you are doing at this moment to help prepare yourself and your community for the upcoming midterms. Because 2026 is a year that has a lot riding on it. 2026 is the year that we clip Trump's wings. We do not want that little baby bird flying anymore. Thank you so much for joining this episode of Stay at Home Feminist. Please comment, subscribe, do all the things. We are a new show. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you're feeling and let me know what you want me to cover next. Actually, next week, we are talking about something very interesting, and that is the national abortion ban that they are not calling a national abortion ban, and how it's already well underway and what we can do about it. So I really, really hope to see you next week because that is a very important topic for women everywhere. In the meantime, stay soft, stay loud, and stay in the fight, mama. Mwah. Bye. See you next week.